last week there were a number of wins out of the Supreme Court, and conservatives were furious. They said these unelected justices, these 5 justices, how dare they say that we should give gay people the same rights as straight people? It says equal rights in the Constitution, and I'm pretty sure that was the whole point of the country, but they were outraged by that. Equal rights for gay people? Hell no, no, no. For history immemorial, for time immemorial, we have discriminated against gays, and I can't believe that now we're supposed to follow the Constitution and not do so. Okay, outraged by that. And then when the court ruled for upholding Obamacare as it was clearly intended, as its authors said it was intended, again outrage from conservatives in the right wing. Well, just announced that the Supreme Court is now blocking President Obama's limits on power plants and pollution. And conservatives celebrate. Interestingly enough, 5-4 decision. 5 unelected justices of the Supreme Court overruling the clearly stated intention of the voters. The voters elected President Obama, convincingly so. They knew exactly what he was about. They knew that he was for more environmental regulation. Mitt Romney was for less environmental regulation. They made him the President of the United States of America. And 5 unelected justices come forward and say, no, we're just going to take a core political issue, which the Supreme Court is not supposed to get involved in, and get in there and tell you our political opinion and overturn it. Based on what? Okay, now, Scalia, who screams and yells about the plain meaning of the law, and I can't believe the other justices would interject their political opinions into the wording of the legislation in interpreting it. Well, they based the decision, and the guy who wrote the majority opinion was Scalia, based on this simple set of words. In the Clean Air Act, it says that the government must take, quote, appropriate and necessary action in enforcing environmental regulations. That's it. That's all it says, appropriate and necessary, in that regard, in that context. You know what Scalia did? He said, oh, I think that that means they must do a cost-benefit analysis, and it must be to only consider the costs and benefits to multinational corporations, and that if the costs and benefits don't add up for the corporations, well, then they must not do the law. Wait a minute, where does it say that in the law? It doesn't say that. You made that up. All it says is they must take appropriate and necessary action. Where the hell does it talk about any of the things that you're mentioning in your opinion? Oh, I see. When it's to your political benefit, you love to pull shit out of your ass. Oh, appropriate and necessary means you must do a cost-benefit analysis to the benefit of corporations. Made up out of whole cloth. The guy who pretends to care so much about the plain meaning of words. Have words no meaning, he said last week. So let's look into this further. New York Times explains. The challengers said, these are the plaintiffs that brought the case, the agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, had run afoul of that law by deciding to regulate the emissions without first undertaking a cost-benefit analysis. The agency responded that it was not required to take the costs into account when it made the initial determination to regulate. But the agency added that it did so later in setting emission standards, and that in any event, the benefits far outweighed the costs. So check, check, check. According to the law, they don't have to do that analysis. You made that up, Scalia, just to make sure that your corporate friends win again, because of your political beliefs that the corporations should be allowed to poison us as much as they like. Second of all, they did the cost-benefit analysis, so you lied about that, okay? And then third of all, they determined that the benefits outweigh the costs, because what you didn't take into account is, hey, you know that poison has a cost on the rest of us. Whether it's greenhouse gas emissions and destroying the planet, which is a pretty high cost, whether it's the severe storms that come out of it, or whether it's simply the pollution that comes out of those plants that goes into our water, into our air, into everything that surrounds us and gets in our drinking waters and our ground and everything that our kids are affected by. That is also a cost. And getting rid of that is a gigantic benefit. We did that cost-benefit analysis. No, I don't believe you. I don't like the answer that you came up with. I'm a Republican, so I don't really care. All of the rest of it is just verbal diarrhea. That's what Scalia is. He's the living definition of verbal diarrhea. When it's a decision he doesn't agree with, how dare they? What about the original meaning of the word? words. And when it's his political action, I don't know, man. Appropriate and necessary means 1,000 different words that I just made up and that now apply to you just so that corporations can win and they can put whatever toxic thing they like into the air. I'm not sure anyone has ever been more full of shit in American history than Antonin Scalia.